Yes, sir. Good.
All set.
Excellent. Okay. Well, thanks for coming, all two of you. We're excited to be here today. We're really excited to show off our literary magazine, Phoenix. I think this is an opportunity for us to to celebrate what the Phoenix at Milwaukee Area Technical College does, and the voice that it gives to the college and to students. And really is an opportunity, a place for the creativity that comes out of the college. So we're really excited to present this and show it out for them. We have three presenters today. Well, we have two presenters actually. Myself, Jonathan, Jason. Beside me, we have Stephen Turner. He is in absentia. I just wanted to say that word out loud because I love it. But he wasn't able to come today. But we do have him presenting in disembodied ways, so we recorded him. He couldn't make it here for various reasons. So he's here in spirit, he's here with us. So myself, I've been teaching here at Milwaukee Area Technical College since 2012, early 2012. I'm a part-time instructor at Milwaukee Area Technical College, and I also work at Kaplan University, which has a college in Milwaukee. And in addition to being a teacher, I'm also a short fiction writer and editor and screenwriter at the moment. Somebody's asked me to write a screenplay, so I'm trying that out at the moment. So I'm really into creative work, and getting involved with this magazine as a faculty reader was a great opportunity for me to share some of what I do, and also to get students involved. And that's a little bit about me. Jason.
Thanks, John. My name is Jason Kolodzyk. This is the beginning of my 12th year working for Milwaukee Area Technical College. It was my first job after graduating, getting out of graduate school. It took me only about 5-6 months to land this job, find this place, and I've been proud to call it my home. I grew up in Milwaukee, lived there most of my life, and to contribute to the community has been a big part of my life. Since teaching at MATC, starting there, I've taught everything from the underprepared learner type classes. So it's a big initiative I know across the U.S. is allowing students that may not have their strongest points to get into college, to find a way to strengthen those skills while working on a degree path. So it's been a pleasure. It's actually one of my favorite classes to work with those students, and I feel like I can have a big impact in an academic way with them. There's just something I have with those diverse students, the ability to kind of reach them and work with them and overcome those challenges. Challenge is a big thing that inspires me to press on. And as educators, we need to have that kind of challenge, I think, to prevent us from growing stagnant and not seeking out new ways to reach the audience members that may be coming from different countries, different states, different cities, different perspectives. So that's been a pleasure. But also, at the university level, I studied creative writing was a concentration. Since I've been a child, I've dreamed about starting my own magazine. Really, I did. I remember younger, taking little parts of things and scrapping them together, and always dreaming about that. So when I was in college at the University of Wisconsin-Milwaukee, where I received both of my degrees, I was happy to be part of their literature notes magazine. And so once getting the job at MATC, that's one thing I volunteered right away. I saw that, I knew about the Phoenix, and you'll hear more about how I knew even before going there a little later, but MATC's magazine was something I felt as a nice outlet as an early educator. I have the stress of starting a new job, you're taught all these skills and things like that, but then when you get out into the real world and you're dealing with these students, it's a different matter. So there's a lot of pressure early on in my career to put all I could into that. So having the Phoenix and being able to contribute, even volunteering, was a great outlet for me. And as the years passed, about my 7th year of volunteering, events transpired. Stephen Turner, who is disembodied spirits housed in our angry phoenix over there. You'll hear his voice soon. In working with him, befriending him, seeing his vision, I was happy to take over the Phoenix and try to step into his shoes, follow up what he started, and becoming faculty advisor for the Phoenix. Along with that, a few years ago, I started to teach full-time at the University of Wisconsin-Milwaukee, but I'm holding on for dear life to my position here, or not here, but at MATC, especially with the Phoenix. I just see it as vital. I'm glad that I'm able to do both of those things and still keep my finger on the pulse of my home city and that community in Milwaukee. So it's an honor to be that position, to work with instructors with fire and creative energy like Jonathan here, to see what we're capable of doing, because there are many, many, many challenges, and we'll go through a lot of those today, as far as how do you, in a technical school, hold on to the creative aspect? How do you showcase that? How do you sell that to the administration as something that's vitally important in these times where budgets are being cut and those kinds of things? Jonathan's been a great help, and you'll see throughout this presentation, starting next with some of Stephen's words, how we were able to do that. And that's our hope for this conference, is by listening to us, hopefully interacting with us later, we'll be able to show you how we were able to kind of salvage the Phoenix from certain doom and being wiped out of existence from the college, and how we were creative and found ways to innovate and showcase what it's capable of. So thanks for inviting us here, myself included. I'm really happy to be here to talk with all of you. So I'll give that to Jonathan. Thanks.
Yeah, so as Jason mentioned, Stephen Turner was, I think a real spearheading faculty member at MATC. He was, he took on the reins of the Phoenix magazine, was able to kind of transition it from, maybe more of a faculty kind of led magazine to inclusive of students, so to get students on board and get them involved more, and also transitioned it to an online platform as well. So he really did a wonderful job, and then Jason took on the tenure. Because we're a literary magazine, we've just been hearing from Thomas Fox Averill. We have also Stephen Turner reading a piece, a poem of his called Grammaticus. He is a novelist and a poet, and we'll start off with one of his pieces called Grammaticus.
Grammaticus. Oh, he's dressed precisely, with yet a certain rakish air. He's lean, angular, on time, quick to arch his eyebrow, fit to untangle clauses, replace the phrases you've misplaced, jolly as he chides the ignorant confusion of lay with lie, or there with there. Supercilious, he cites sages, Milton or Aristotle, forever loath to venture his own opinion, seeking instead, like a drunken man, another bottle, clarification upon clarification, turning questions back upon themselves till all hope of answer is forever lost in yellow fogs of definitions, conditions, and provisions. He is Grammaticus, uncommitted, dull, and limp, paper more than flesh, ink his drink, not wine. That's Grammaticus.
Okay, just a short introduction from Stephen himself on his role and why he thinks the magazine is a real important thing for the college.
Hi, I'm Steve Turner. I'm retired English instructor. I'm married more than 40 years. Have a couple of grown children. We've got one grandchild along the way. I'm pretty excited about that. I taught English for more than 40 years, mostly at Milwaukee Area Technical College. I was the advisor to the school literary magazine in Phoenix for a few years. That was after I retired. I had a lot of fun with that. It always amazed me to see the number of creative people who would step forward if you put out the call at what is essentially a vocational school, although we are also a junior college. Not just writers, but artists and photographers. There's a lot of creativity out there, and a lot of people are seeking outlets for their creativity. I think that's one of the big reasons why it's so important for colleges and universities, even in these depressing times as far as budgets go, to continue to support artistic and literary endeavors with magazines like the Phoenix, magazines of art and writing. We have had some incredible poets. I've read some incredible short stories. I've seen photographs that are absolutely mind-boggling. They're so impressive. If we in the academic community don't support the arts, I think the arts are will be in even more trouble. There's so little support anymore. It's slipping away from us. The magazines are going out of business. Publishers are being taken over by huge corporations that only care about the bottom line. They don't care about encouraging young writers. So I think it's really important for us as educators to step forward and do this. That was it.
How was that? That was great, Steve.
That was great, Stephen. Thank you. Okay, so as we mentioned earlier, to tie in with the TBA theme of today's conference, the magazine is in continuous TBA each semester. The funds have been stripped of the magazine, going from quite a large amount to nothing. So we're in a kind of position right now that we're keeping it on life support, and we're in a climate, I think, across many states, Wisconsin included, that has severe cutting to education. And just in the last few years, MATC has received 30% cut straight. 2010 cut 30%, and then the UW system, University of Wisconsin, has a $300 million cut coming in the next few years. So it's not an incremental cut. We're having slash and burn cutting, in Wisconsin. So it's trying times, and obviously little old us in this magazine are feeling the brunt of that, obviously with budgets being squeezed. But we don't want to be doom and gloom. We want to talk about what we can do and what we can achieve. So the college itself, MATC, just to kind of give you a bit more of an overview of the college. It is, we're very proud of this college, what it does. It serves a really diverse community. It was founded in 1912, initially as a vocational school, trade school, and then has developed into, as Stephen said, a junior college, a transfer college, and continues to serve the community, we think, in an excellent way. It serves approximately 20,000 students around the Milwaukee area, so it's a big college. Has 4 campuses, one downtown, and then suburban and rural campuses in the metropolitan area. So really serves a really diverse population. The downtown campus has a majority black population, and then we have a very diverse mix of students from 60 nationalities. In fact, I think the last estimates was, so we have a lot of diversity. So we're hoping that this magazine can really bring a voice for those diverse people. Here's the Phoenix itself. We have some copies actually with us today for you to look at the end. And you know, we're proud of what the Phoenix is, what it does. And you know, just to give an overview of the magazine, it has been in existence since 1970, so it's been going for 45 years now. It's not to be mixed up or confused with the Phoenix out of Baylor University, or the Phoenix out of the University of Tennessee, or the Phoenix out of Valencia College. Apparently there's a ton of the Phoenixes, so not a very original name. But we're very proud of it, and it, you know, it was founded in 1970, as I said, continuously published since then. You know, it's part of became an organisation, a society, as a student body. Started out mainly as a vehicle for instructors' work, for faculty to publish, so it's quite a closed shop to begin with. But then really, you know, over the years it's opened up to become, you know, a student-led thing. So we have students that work as editors that take it from the submission stage to editing, reviewing and publishing work. We also publish photography, artwork, I think even jewelry.
Jewelry,
Yeah, you know, photographs. So any kind of art form.
Furniture?
That's furniture, right? Yeah, we like to publish any kind of art form in the magazine. So it's not just a writing magazine. You know, it's a showcase for all kinds of artwork. In addition to the print magazine that we have on display, we also have a website, a pretty nice looking online journal that publishes the works as well. So we have quite a big reach in terms of you know, what we do at the college. In addition to that, we also have open mic night, you know, open mic events. So we, you know, and those are fantastically attended. A lot of people suddenly come out and do some wonderful spoken word or poetry or read short stories. So we, you know, we really have a great event when that happens. But as we mentioned, the decline in budget has gone from, I think it was at a point of about $5,000 a year. So it was really a healthy budget, could do a lot with that. Declined from then. I think last year we were given $250 to cover printing costs. And this year we have the princely sum of $0, right? Yeah, we have no money to play with. So, you know, we're thinking of ways that we can work with that and maybe get a bit more exposure to the magazine and kind of make it, show the value of it to the administration. And I will pass this over to Jason to talk about working with the institution.
So I'm going to talk a little bit about the current state of working with the institution itself. But if it's okay with you, I'll start a little bit in the past and tell you a little personal story. So when I was a young boy, probably until I was 10, my room in Milwaukee, my parents' house, was in the attic. From my bed, I could see my parents' door. Outside that door was a bookshelf. On that bookshelf were my father's books, including the collective works of Edgar Allan Poe, Dracula, the Lord of the Rings series, and on and on. Stacked within those books were copies of a short pamphlet-looking thing that I wasn't sure what it was early on. As I got older, curiosity and my relationship with my father developed as my interest of reading and writing, making up my own stories continued. I was quite the storyteller. My father could probably tell you some stories about that, starting with first grade teacher, mom and dad going to parent-teacher conference, and say, so when is your child due next? And to the surprise of my mother, no child due, story I made up, kind of thing. I was a storyteller for a long time, and reading these classics was a big part of it, but what was in those other things between the books was an even bigger part of it. And learning later, there were copies of the original Phoenix. My father taught at MATC science, biology, for 35 years until retiring, and it was the first job after coming back from Vietnam, getting some schooling, finishing his education, was hired there at MATC. And as Jonathan alluded to, early on in the inception of the Phoenix, was primarily faculty poetry, stories, a little bit of student work, but mainly it was an outlet for faculty to express their thoughts and ideas. My father is no different. Dealing with the horrors that he encountered as a field medic in Vietnam, there are several poems of his in these early editions that I still hold pretty dear to myself. So I lost my train of thought. But it mattered to him is the point. It was an outlet for him and an outlet for a lot of these faculty staff. Later on, he would convince me to go there for my first couple of years to get a feel for college. It was cheaper than the UW schools and transfer over. And so my father being a good role model to me, I bent to his will and did that and found that to be a good experience. And then experienced the Phoenix in a different way. I was in a creative writing class, and the man teaching it, Gary Longry, was faculty advisor for the Phoenix at that time, and one of the required textbooks was the Phoenix. And I became familiar with it. He encouraged it as part of the curriculum. It was part of, allowing me, could my story, starting off from my mom's pregnant when I was little, to now, making these fantastical connections to my life experience as a student, growing into my identity there, could I really do something with that, or other people want to read it? And the answer was yes. And I was able to publish things as a student at that stage, giving myself a voice in this magazine and kind of setting me down a path that I, at that point, had no idea what that path would be, but probably wouldn't be standing here if it wasn't for that. So where do we lose this connection, is my question. Fast forward to years later, I talked a little bit about me volunteering for the Phoenix as a faculty reader, and then eventually becoming the faculty advisor. It was like a dream come true. Now that you heard a little bit of my backstory, I never wanted the position. I was happy being a reader. Just happened, as you heard, Stephen was retiring, and I was full of, as they say, fire and gas kind of thing. And he saw something in me, and I applied for it. And thankfully, I was chosen to take over that role, and fell into a lot of potential pits. The first pit was wondering, why wasn't this wonderful magazine incorporated like it once was when I was a student now? Why don't people know about it, And how can we salvage it from, even though we were experiencing some economic hardships, how can we find ways to make sure it continues, to live on, to connect to faculty and staff and to the administration? The showcase once was a common knowledge. These instructors, sometimes early on, would create 3 to 4 magazines per year in the early inception. That's the kind of creative fire that existed then, and somewhere along the line, it vanished, went away. Even though it was opened up to involving more students and getting their artwork and photography. At MATC, there's a photography program and a graphic arts program and all these things. Even though it was doing that, unfortunately, it was kind of on life support, as Jonathan alluded to earlier. So what happened to it? I'm not sure. I don't have the research to know where it fell off the wayside or how people, as the institution grew, maybe it just became less known. I'm not exactly sure what happened, but the fact is it did happen. And when I took over the Phoenix, as Jonathan said, it went from a fairly large budget to 0. And here I am with this thing in my hands and not knowing what to do with it. Thankfully, Stephen started the online WordPress magazine, or he didn't really start it himself, but it was his idea, and I'll explain in just a minute how he was able to do that. But thankfully for that idea, we were able to at least virtually get the work out there and allow students to have a voice in that way. But that wasn't just not enough. So Stephen's original idea was to get students more involved, and that's where I was all on board with, because up until that point, basically it was like 2-3 instructors, taking submissions, hanging some flyers, and going through all that. Ton of work on their part, difficult, more than a part-time job to take care of that, even amongst the 3 of them, but they were the ones choosing the work and that kind of thing. And we wanted to get students more involved. So Stephen's idea was to create a student organization. So we created the Phoenix Literary Arts Society. We got them involved in the creative process, the editorial process, the leadership process, focus on a lot of hard and soft skills, and we allowed the back and forth, that collaboration to inspire where the Phoenix was going to go. Going back to the institution though, how did we go about doing this with no budget? My main focus was to build partnerships. In a big college like MATC with 20,000 students, 4 campuses, we're involved in communities all over Milwaukee County and beyond. The bridges are kind of hard to build. You know, these things are so spread out. So I started local. I started focusing on the main campus downtown in Milwaukee, and I started saying, well, okay, if we're having problems printing, why not build partnership and figure out who is in the printing department? And thankfully, when Stephen left the position, and you can see it if you take a look at the 2010 Phoenix, where he left a little faculty advisor note inside that magazine asking, those of you that help me, please help Jason. You know, don't leave him alone, find a way to work with him. And I took that idea and I tried to grow it. Why just the printing department? They're amazing. Gerald and Dana, Gerald Trotter, and Dana Cooper Davis, big inspiration to me. Us working together, their knowledge on how to put images and text together. I didn't have that knowledge. I needed that partnership. And they loved it as well. Giving them this outlet, taking time from their own day, staying late sometimes. But it needed them to have that spirit to want to help me. With no budget, they had to find it within their heart to say, this is something of value, that we value, that we believe the students value. And so there was that bridge to the printing department, right in-house at MATC. My hope is that if you have a printing department at your college or a local place that you can partner with that's in the community, then maybe there's a way you can work around the budget to reduce those costs. The IT department, Information Technology department, when Steve was looking to build this website, he found Vicki Hennigan, who, with her own money and her own free will, created our website that you'll see later. Even though later on we were saying, hey, we can raise the funds to pay for it, even though it was almost $50 or something a year, that was her contribution. Amongst all the other great things she does for MATC, helping develop the apps that we have and the other technological aspects of MATC, this is a side project for her where she had to take her own personal time and investment to help create this. So thanks to Vicki for that, and building that partnership and working with that, communicating with that was a big thing. Working with the libraries on all 4 campuses. What better way to showcase your magazine than working with libraries? You know, and their love for the literature world, the art world, hearing the voice of students, faculty, and staff. It's not just students, it's the whole community. Hearing their voices was something they were on board with. Allowing us to use their display cases for events to showcase the Phoenix was something we're able to partnership. I'm sure your colleges as well have some sort of library that you could develop this partnership in some way. And if they're willing, you can find that willing soul to help you to sacrifice a little bit of their time and encourage them. It doesn't have to be 50 hours a semester, maybe 1 hour, 10 minutes. Work with me, answer an email, and we can work together on that. The MATC Times newspaper, you'll see 2 articles, and are partnering with them to showcase to send reporters to our events, photographers, to work with them, to interview our students. Bob Hansen, who is the faculty advisor of the MATC Times newspaper, was kind of a mentor to me, and how were they able to run this newspaper? How do they fund it? And so you'll hear some ideas I got from Bob later on. And one of the great things that came out of that partnership is they were, what do they call it? Bounce back is the fancy word I learned from Vicki, our IT person, that they would put a link to new articles or new things we'd have on our site, on their site, and us vice versa, new articles there on the Times to our site. So we're a partnership there. It doesn't have to be them and us. It can be us together. We're part of the same institution. And so they would also upload digital copies of our news magazine and connect it to their website. So that's the way we got around that, working with the institution. And I can go on and on with public relations, able to put ads and submission deadlines on the closed-circuit TVs across the campuses to get that voice out there to the students, to the faculty, to make them aware of it. to bring published authors in, to connect with the Wisconsin community and have them speak to our students, come to open mic events, telling the administration, this is what we're doing. We're not just this magazine now that's set off to the side to let the dust cover it. We're trying to incorporate everybody if we can. Reaching out to the community, I've made partnerships. I shouldn't say I. One of the things that students really wanted to do is get out into the community. They wanted to be mentors to like first-year classes or even in high school. So we partnered because that was their want, and I thought that was a great service learning opportunity. We partnered with 2 different high schools in the Milwaukee area. They brought their students to the open mic events. I went to their class with MATC reporters and spoke to them about the very next step, high school, potentially to college if that was their choice. You know, showcasing the importance of creative works and the importance of where they were now and where they were going, you know, to kind of bridge the gap there within the community to what MATC represents in the future. And on and on. But that's the current state of our relationship with the institution, is continuing down these roads, developing these partnerships, and seeking out new ones with the goal of making the whole community of MATC and surrounding areas aware of what the Phoenix is once again, and that is more accessible now than ever. It's not something where you have to put in a SASE, right, and mail off somewhere, wait for a response. You know, we've used modern things to try to reach out to people, and those modern things did not start without building these partnerships within the institution itself. No need to outsource and go outside of that. I'm the next one too. Yep. One last thing. One of the things nowadays is trying to work with the institution is, and I understand it, the Phoenix, you look at it, it's this literature and arts magazine. But as we start to talk about it, it's much more than that. To me, it represents the community of MATC and surrounding areas in a way that complements the nonfiction articles that would come out in the newspaper. Still, giving you anecdotal stories. For example, if I was to tell you about a student at an open mic event that came in front of this microphone, nothing prepared, not a note card in his hand, and word for word with passion beyond belief, recited Martin Luther King's I Have a Dream speech. It was one of the most breathtaking things I've experienced at an open mic event. It was amazing. Things like that, their own words, speaking things from the heart, those are anecdotal stories. How can we measure that? We need data to showcase. We need deliverables. We need this thing that the administration can showcase and say, this is what it's doing for the students, beyond giving them this creative outlet. So, the associate dean, new associate dean, I think it's his 2nd or 3rd year, I can't remember, I apologize, Scott. Dr. Scott Britton has worked with me to develop an idea to take to the dean to say, hey, here's what students are capable of. Here's how it's benefiting them in a concrete, quantitative way rather than a qualitative way. So if you take a look at the chart here, we looked at, it's a small sample size now, but a few semesters we tracked some students that were in any way, shape, or form involved with the Phoenix. Whether they submitted work, came to open mic events, emailed me in communication with their collaborative ideas, joined the student organization. We tracked the semesters where they were involved as compared to the ones where they were not involved, and also students that were not involved compared to the ones that were, and we're seeing a definite increase in not taking away from their studies, almost enhancing their studies by being involved. And you'll hear me talk a little bit about this later, because that's a big worry in a community-type college where they may have families and other things going on, their studies that they're taking seriously. How can they have time for something like this? Well, we found ways to say, you can have time. It doesn't have to be a part-time job to do that. And this is our beginning evidence to showcase that in a quantitative way with the numbers. We're hoping to continue this and find new ways to showcase that, yes, I can give you a million stories like the one I just did, but I want you to see something that's hard proof, and this is our start with that. We're hoping also, after our presentation, that we can get some ideas from you all. Maybe you have some ways that you can help us, strategies, techniques of research that we can utilize to showcase that what once was just understood in the current climate and the way education in the world has shrunk, that we can showcase that there's still a place for this and it should not be buried and forgotten. So moving along, so that's what this is showcasing. So now I'm just going to talk just a little bit about.
Wait, Jason. We'll go the other way. He went back.
I went back,
Yeah.
back in time.
There you
My
go.
fault. Okay. So current state of the Phoenix, we're working with students. 3 bullet points here I'll go through. Again, I have to go a little bit to the past. And one of the things since I've become faculty advisor that's inspired me is to look back at where it once was, the old issues of Phoenix, and talking to people that were involved in it, finding out, what they did, how they involved everybody, and bringing that forward. So, considering that idea now, I'm going a little bit back in the past. The first group of students I worked with, you can see them showcased there. The man with the brown jacket is a fairly well-known poet named Patrick Moran, who brought to the campus, who donated some of his work to be published in a Phoenix issue, came to my creative writing class, came to the open mic event, worked with our students. It was a wonderful experience. A lot of those students still stay in touch with Pat, and he's a professor and writer, and it was a wonderful, wonderful idea of those students. But you can see them all here. Brandon Howe next to me in a gray suit, jacket. RJ Plevak, who always wanted to be a clown all his life. So when we had the idea to have a mascot of the Angry Phoenix there, it was like his lifelong dream to help us recruit for events down the hallways, getting students involved with our assignment. We saw that photo earlier. And then on and on. It was showcased, and I have a copy of it over here. The man on the end with a kind of Phoenix-looking shirt designed a lot of our graphics in the student organization. This was our first student organization, these students, and our goals early on, even though these students were full of fire and creative energy, and it's like one of those things where it was lightning in the bottle, right? It struck right place, right time, and we created a lot of things based on their ideas. With the student organization, we decided to do a podcast where we would review submissions and talk about them and connect them to our lives. We would develop themes for the magazine, because without a budget, what were we to do? So what we did was, one of our tactics was, we decided, because my position as faculty advisor was technically a class, that's how it's aligned. And I thought of this idea of like, well, why don't we photocopy some magazines? So I went to the associate dean at the time. I said, hey, how about 500 pages a semester? Can we photocopy 500 pages? I'll buy my own long stapler. We'll find a way to get the print edition. It was really important to the students to have something physical to complement our online presence. So together we would strategize. What could we do? We came up with this idea of Phoenix Now. So since we couldn't produce the fancy copy, we decided to take issues that matter to the students and have themed, more kind of edgy issues that we would create to go along with our black and white magazines that we would distribute for free at the libraries. They allowed us a little spot to put these out for free. And every time I'd go back there, they'd be gone. And no students were picking those up. That they were reading them. They were reading interviews that the students would do with some of the writers, with each other. Together we would meet and we would decide which images would go together. They would take photos themselves. Some of them were artists, giving them an alternate voice in this magazine. We even chose specific font for the magazine. It was like old school typewriter to kind of give it this kind of raw feeling of something different than the normal Phoenix, that we wanted to tackle real issues and have them appear there. So it was this group of people that helped me create that. There's no way I could have done it myself, and I'm proud to have worked with them. Kwame Brown on the end there, and all the students in that photo were a big part of that. But we knew quickly, it's a 2-year school, transfers. Some students transfer, some students are there to get their 2-year degree, maybe it takes 3 years, whatever it might take. But we know at some point, Your studies are going to get hard, life's going to get away, there's going to be turnover. So, current state is Brandon left, right next to me, and RJ left when they transferred away. What were we to do? They were my lifeblood. I fed off them, they fed off me. We had a partnership there. So we needed to recruit constantly. We needed to maintain communication with the core group of students we did have. We need to prepare for that turnover in some way. When we had this core group of students in that initial run of student organization, there were probably 15 engaged students amongst all the students. Even though we might have had 100 people that would email here and there, that would communicate via Blackboard, or that's our online site, touch base, that core group is what we realized was essential. We needed to find the students that were willing to, just like the instructors I talked about before, give a little bit more of something, even if that was an hour. And I'll talk a little bit more about that when Brandon gets a chance to speak a little later.
Should we look at the student testimonials?
Sure. Yes, let's do that.
Great.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we we wanted to get it out to the students. You know what they get out of the magazine. So we're going to listen to Brandon in a minute. We recorded his thoughts and ideas. These two students worked with us last semester and just gave some feedback on what they experienced. Vika Petto, she was in one of my classes and was really interested in getting involved. She's a Ukrainian student. She was very nervous about her grammatical, always talking about grammar. She was the better grammar person than the native speakers, to be honest. She knew her stuff. But she wanted to improve her language, so she says, my decision to help with Phoenix was motivated by a few things, such as improving my English and giving my feedback that could help improve the magazine. So I think something tangible there that she got out of her experience. Diana Heron, slightly different with her response. She's passionate about writing, and she wanted to progress, have an opportunity to get her stuff out there and work with writers, which she may not have the opportunity to do elsewhere. So really she had an opportunity to work and craft her stuff. So a few testimonials, and then just with the former student president, Brandon, how did you say his name again? Hout. Yes. I'll say his names. We asked him a few questions, and Jason, do you want to introduce Brandon? You've already introduced him a little bit. Should I just play it?
Yeah, play it. I'll talk a little bit about him after we hear him.
Yeah, so we asked him a couple of questions and got his responses.
Which skills or abilities did you acquire or improve in your duties working for the magazine and or the Phoenix Student Organization?
The biggest influence I drew from being a member of the Phoenix Literary Arts Society and having worked with the Phoenix magazine was exposure to a wide variety of writing styles, from flash fiction to short stories, slam poetry to rap, and anything in between. It opened me up to appreciating the written word in so many forms, and really opening me up to this amazing variety that I had never considered before. It was really interesting to, especially at the open mic events, really interesting to hear other people's stories, their words, their lives, and the art that their experiences allow them to create. It's just the whole thing. The open mic events were really wonderful. Got to meet a lot of people, draw inspiration from them to use in my future writings, and on top of that, it helped boost my confidence. I got up in front of people, I read my work, helped my confidence in that I could speak in front of people with ease. So I think all of that really was beneficial to me. And being the founding vice president was very good as well. It helped me get a taste of leadership skills that I otherwise wouldn't have had studying there.
Perfect. Thank you.
And then one final question that we asked him.
Why do you think this magazine is important to the college and its students?
The way I see it, at a technical college, most students are there only for their field of study. Some students may never take an art class, or a writing class. So this magazine and this organization offers them a taste of art. They can experience paintings, photography, sculpture, poetry, stories, to those who might not have otherwise taken such classes or even had it in their lives at all. The Phoenix also allows those students an opportunity to express their creative sides. That might sound a little cliche, but it's true. Some people need an outlet other than, just talking with friends or working on projects for class. They need that little bit of creativity, whether it's art or poetry. So I think it's so beneficial, so essential to a technical college where you have a broad demographic of people coming from all backgrounds. And having this magazine just kind of makes it feel like a more cohesive college, that you're part of a community rather than studying solely in your own field. You can relate to people through writing, through photography. So stepping out of the box is one positive aspect of the Phoenix.
I like what you said about community, because in the end, if you look at it as a technical college or a community college, I think sometimes that word community is lost. We all, just like we started off this interview, we all have these other obligations. And sometimes we walk through life, internalizing everything and not giving it an outlet to share in our experiences, our journey. But then we look back on it and it's, okay, I took this class, I did this project over here and got a new job over there. But what was the experience like? What were you feeling at that time? How was the relationship with other students? And like you said, the Phoenix and going to these open mics opened your mind to realize that, hey, I'm not alone, that there are other people dealing with these similar issues and struggles, the human experience, just as I am, or maybe opened your eyes to some other culture or way of expression, as you said, that perhaps without that you may not have realized at that point.
Right. Like what you said, the human experience, it's something many people take for granted until you experience something like the open mic events. Because then you realize there are other people who have the same feelings as you do about culture and politics and emotions and just everyday life. And it's great to have that connection to people who you otherwise would have no connection with because they're studying a different topic. So you're there listening to them, they're listening to you, you're sharing little glimpses of each other's lives, and through that you get to meet some amazing people you never otherwise would have met.
Quick story about Brandon there. He was our first vice president of the organization, and I just wanted to tell you an anecdote about him. I remember when we were first recruiting, trying to find these core students, I guess, that just had that fire like I did to give a little bit of their time. That was one of Brandon's first concerns. I remember him coming to me shyly, not ready to commit to it, wondering how much of his time it would take. You can hear in his voice that he's a pretty sincere person that cares about his learning and didn't want something to take away from that, but was definitely seeking this outlet, seeking a way to express himself. And I convinced him that, hey, you can give an hour. You can give whatever you can give. We'll do online. Whatever you can give, we will take. It doesn't have to be so all-consuming. And Brandon, then, like most of us, when things we're passionate about, we can find those other moments. And he started off with not much involvement and rose to wanting to be the vice president, you know. And I remember at our first open mic events, just what he spoke of. We needed someone to be the MC. I didn't want to be the one voice up here talking all the time. I wanted a student to do it, to get that experience of public speaking, of becoming a leader and communicating like that. And it grew, and Brandon's voice grew, and the strength of his voice grew, his confidence grew, and I could see it. And I was sad to see him go, and Brandon will tell you himself that one of the hardest things of leaving MATC and transferring on, even though he found his voice and his passion, that he wanted to be an actor. He wanted to go into drama, and he transferred to one school, and then all of a sudden I started at University of Wisconsin-Whitewater, and Brandon was there. And I didn't even know that. We ran into each other, and he's there and plays, and I've seen him there. And I'm not saying it was because of the Phoenix, but I think that gave him a starting point. That it led him down that path, or was assisted in that in some way, shape, or form. And it's core students like that. Yes, we want to reach everyone, and whoever can give a minute, we will welcome them into our organization. But I think in talking about the involvement of students, it's finding that core group that we can hold on to, that wants to give a little bit more. And we saw those comments from a couple students that were involved last semester. And I just want to say a little thing. In the last year, with $250, we were able to produce 2 magazines that you can see here, working with the printing department. And we were also to host 2 different reading events, one reading, one open mic. 4 of those students still remain in contact with us right now. Survived the summer with us. We're still communicating with them. At a responsibility level, they're still involved with us. And 24 students just in our annual edition, we allow them, we work with them. We're honored to have their voices to be heard in that. So that's kind of the current state, if we could wrap it up in that, is even though there's a lot of students there, these students were able to showcase their ability and grow from it, hopefully.
Okay, just finally wanted to touch on, getting instructors involved with the Phoenix to a greater degree. Myself, just to illustrate my example, I got in touch with Jason about a year and a half ago. I'd actually been working with my students on a flash fiction writing unit, so they were working on very short stories, very micro fictions, and the unit that we did with that particular class was just some phenomenal work was produced from it. And just instead of just producing it on our Blackboard site or having it printed out, I thought what better way than to get it out there in a real situation. I think as instructors, as English instructors, it can be stuffy, it can be insulated within our classroom. The more real world application that we can find, the more engagement we can get students, the better. So we actually, with talking with Jason, we were able to produce the Phoenix Now edition, which we have the poster there, and that particular edition has a lot of my students' work in, as well as photography and other writings from other students around the college. So for me personally, as an instructor and as somebody who's a creative writer, it was just a phenomenal experience to take it from the classroom into the editorial process, get it printed, get it showcased, give a reading. And a lot of my students came down to that reading and were incredibly proud of the work that they've done. They were able to see their work in print. Wouldn't normally have done that, I imagine. A lot of them wouldn't normally have thought to pursue that. And I think that opportunity, that confidence boost was phenomenal. So I think getting instructors on board with what we're doing here, I think like Jason mentioned, it's kind of been lost a little bit. It was more integral, I think, this magazine. So we need to get the awareness going again and get it out there. So I think as well as being a place for students' work, it's a place for instructors' work as well. So we want to get more instructors on board to publish their work with us. We have Patrick Moran here. Jeannie Dean is another of our faculty who is an active live poet in the poetry scene in Milwaukee, and she really supports us. So we want to keep on pushing that, as well as as I mentioned, the forum for classroom activities. So getting work from classrooms onto the printed page, onto the website. We want to partner with more instructors, more departments as well. So crossing over to different departments within the college and showcasing what they're doing. Whether it's culinary, hearing Thomas Fox Averill, maybe we could do like a culinary edition. Get some recipes, get some anecdotes going. In ESL, we have 60 nationalities enrolled in the ESL program. Let's get those voices on the page. I think there's a lot we can do to get the instructors involved and get a bit more of a buzz going again for this magazine. So I think just to finish up. Sorry, a few faculty testimonials here. Just want to illustrate the first one. Lamonte Blades, early childhood education instructor and educational assistant. He is not within the realm of writing in English. He's out of that. But what he did, published 4 poems in the Phoenix magazine, and what he says is that he's very proud of this accomplishment. And I think, again, we have an opportunity with this magazine to showcase the work of these creative people who may not have the chance to get published, who may not think to get published, but we're able to get those voices across. And Jean Langenberg in the English department, I think we want to push that more. Get the classes involved with using the Phoenix a little bit more, and get it onto the table a little bit more. So that's our future plans. And then just to finish up, Jason, did you want to talk about funding, the funding ideas?
Yes.
And then we'll finish up.
Yeah. Going into the home stretch of our presentation, just wanted to talk a little bit about future fundraising. How do we do this? Because if you think about what we've just been telling you, we've done all this with basically nothing. Just think if we get a little something, because in the end, we do need some sort of funds to grow it in some way. I think there's probably a few different streets and avenues we can go down to still do it basically for free, without any kind of money. But a little bit of fundings, I think, man, what could we do? Really? Well, how could we showcase this, and how could we grow it? So some ideas for fundraising that we've had, some of our student ideas, some of our ideas. We're hoping to get some ideas from you. We've been working with graphics arts program students, their programs, and creative media, photographers, and that. Maybe they can make some prints or copies, and we can do, maybe if they're willing to donate some of those funds, do kind of a silent auction, or maybe just ask for donations that way, where you get something back. It's not just, hey, give us money. This is coming from our students. Look at how beautiful it is. You heard Steve Turner talk about how breathtaking some of those photos are. What was the mind-boggling, right?
Yeah.
And really, they are. We'll show you our website at the very end, and you'll see some of these images, and hopefully you'll take the time to take a look at some of these issues, and you'll see through their mind's eyes what they're able to capture. Maybe we can use that to earn some funds in some way, shape, or form if they're willing. The program focus at the college itself, like Jonathan mentioned, maybe partnering with the culinary arts program. I've reached out, and we will continue to try to find that one person that sees what we see, the potential to give their program a voice. Why not showcase an issue of Phoenix Now, even if it's just a PDF and e-zine that we publish on our website, interviewing their faculty, their successes, their awards they've won, the students, and maybe even taking off of the earlier presentation, right? Maybe some recipes that they've created, showcasing them in what they're proud of in a magazine. It doesn't have to just be fiction and poetry. It's never been just about that. Since the first issues, they've been personal narratives, and quickly it was involving interviewing people and getting their perception as many ways as we can. So reaching out to these programs, whether it's the auto mechanic program or engineering, welding, whatever it might be at the college, giving them a voice is something we want. One thing I learned from Bob Hansen in the MATC Times newspaper is to try to reach out to the community and get advertising perhaps. So that's one idea to generate funds. We haven't done that yet. Maybe a local bookstore or coffee shop or something. Someone there that has this interest we can create this partnership between us somehow to just generate a little bit of revenue. It's never a nonprofit. To be honest with you, look at these magazines. They cost between $7 and $10 for a magazine. We sold them for $5 and oftentimes quickly reduced that rate. And I know students can't afford much, but we never recovered the amount that we were able, the cost there. And we cut every corner we possibly could without downgrading the quality. Printing department has been great on that by making the size smaller, to changing the materials we would use, the level of ink, to anything we could do to squeeze the most we could out of the little we were trying to do. But this is all about how can we generate just a little bit more to maybe get a little bit more. You know, that was another idea. There's a lot of creative festivals around the Milwaukee area and state, and I'm sure your cities and states have similar things that we can have a presence there and get us known as far as representing our community that way. Even the thought of a student had the idea of doing Kickstarter and seeing if we can get funds in that way. Someone that just loves the arts and doesn't want to see it die and go away, that values it without much effort, just they can see it and they know it, and draw upon that audience is an idea. So that we can show the impact to the different departments and showcase not just English, but these other aspects of our community, these other programs at the community, and give them a voice as well through the written word and through the visual avenue. Online and print is our goal. You heard Stephen talk a little bit before about how print is dying and being consumed by the monster. And yeah, I heard that. I'm a younger guy, John's a younger guy, and we've heard that, and I don't see that happening. They just have to innovate, which is what we've had to do. I don't think print is going to be gone forever. I think that there's still a value in holding something concrete. And just think about it, the administration, and I agree, wanting something more concrete, wanting those deliverables, that's a deliverable. The physical form is a deliverable. You can hold it in your hands, you can smell it, you can look at it, you can appreciate it, you can write in it if you want to. We want to hold on to that to complement our online presence. But to do that, we need to innovate, we need to strategize even more to get these people involved in one way, shape, or form. So,
great. Yeah, I think we're getting out of time here, aren't we? Thanks for joining us, all of you.
We pandered the crowd, but we'd rather talk to all of you afterwards.
So if you have any questions, come and step down and take a look at our. Yes. We want to show it off.
Yes.
So come on down.
And if you have questions, comments, we have a mailing list here. If you want to keep in touch with us, some thoughts for us, either in person or write us a few comments, email us later. If you want to switch to the website, we're really proud of that. It's one of the ways that we're able to produce on basically zero cost, thanks to Vicky.
Yeah, so we've got the PDF links as well to the magazines, as well as it's online. So there's published works online as well.
Can you scroll down just a little bit more? Yeah, so you can see all the different publications throughout the years and semesters. It's not everything, but it's a lot of them. So we have an archive, and we're working on that archive to broaden it. One of our ideas is to scan these old issues in. One thing I didn't mention, to promote public speaking skills, one of the cool things at an open mic event, if a student's unwilling to read their own work, which is very difficult, if you've ever done that, it's like speaking now, it's not easy, even if when you're passionate like we both are, it's not easy, and a student might not be willing to do that. But you know what they would be willing to do? Especially if you encourage a little extra credit or something like that, crack open an old issue of the Phoenix and read something there. And that's what we've constantly done, and I've had even my 103 students, the underprepared learners, we're prepared, now they're prepared learners, we're preparing them to get into English 101 or those, I've gotten them to come to these events, take one of these magazines and just read through it, and they love that experience, and it takes the pressure off a little bit there, and you can see a lot of these old issues here, and a lot of these old things here, and we're trying to bring the past to the future yet again, so.
Questions?
Yeah, questions, comments, concerns? Questions at this point?
Actually, really nice, you guys. You did a nice job.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Yeah, I have a few questions. What's the editorial process when somebody wants to submit? Is there discernment of what goes in?
Sure. And if you think of something,
I'll jump in.
So, like we said back in the past, there was a few professors sitting around deciding. So the process now is, actually I can show
Those
you.
are great visuals, by the way.
Thank you, yeah.
Really, that's beautiful.
I wish I could take credit for those students. It's their eyes you're seeing, you know.
Ah.
These are the mind-boggling photos
Yeah.
that Stevie talks about.
Mind-boggling, yeah. And these are just some of them. They're recent. You'll see them. This is downtown Milwaukee. You can see there.
I love
Milwaukee Lion, not the real one. I don't know if you read that. You read about that? We had a little cougar crawling around the city this summer.
That's phenomenal.
Yeah, beautiful. But simple. Go to this site, matcphoenix.com. No www. Click on submit here. And if it works, tells you here, you can still mail stuff in, so if
So
possible.
not everything is accepted.
Everything is accepted.
Oh, everything is.
Everything is accepted.
As far as accepting, most things I would say. And how it works is, so let's say you submit it, you'll get a response, I'll respond back to you at some point saying, hey, we received your work, and that's when the students become involved. We look at the submissions, we decide which ones fit in. If I feel that there are technical, mechanical issues, just my bent on being a creative writer as well, so as Jonathan, is sometimes a fine line with what you can get away with. We heard Tom talk about the semicolon, and sometimes you can take creative usage of those mechanics and the punctuation and such. So usually what I'll do is I'll contact the student and say, hey, love your piece, would you be willing to work with me on that a little bit, and here's my thoughts about it. I mean, maybe something with a title, or so if it's something obvious like a misuse of verb or tense or something like that, then we work with them. So sometimes if they're willing to work with it, we'll then publish it later on. So that happens a lot of times.
Jason, just to jump in on something,
Yes,
to
go for it.
piggyback
No,
on
please do.
what the editorial process. For the last one at least, for the Phoenix Now edition, all the submissions came through, and we had a scoring system out of the 4 or 5 editors. So we did the scoring and decided which ones that went in. Quite a few of the submissions actually did go in, but not all of them. So we kind of had the students edit and decide upon what would go.
But I think that's helpful, not to accept everything,
Right.
because then the people that do get accepted, they feel that there's some merit in being.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
To follow up on that, that's another great thing about the annual edition and the print edition, because we're a little bit more selective or looking for thematic things. We'll do a call for submissions for thematic type things. So you may be published here, but maybe not make the cut for the annual edition, which is showcasing the very best from that year. So just this online edition, this online presence gives us another option to publish more students, but reserve maybe just a notch higher quality for the print version of it. So kind of to delineate that or separate those two things. Not that the online is like a lesser quality, but just it gives us more options to publish more, because with the print and how many pages we're allotted with the cost, we can only print so many, so we have to be a little bit more selective with it. And also quality, of course, is a big factor, and the students have a big voice in that. And thankful for any instructor that wants to become involved like Jonathan has. It just takes a little pressure off me, and I'm only one person. Just like I tell my students in a normal English 101 type class, I'm looking at how you are communicating to a broad audience. You impress me, it's one thing. I'm not going to be in your back pocket when you move through life. How are you communicating to a broad audience? The more people involved in that process, students, these students' peers, and Jonathan, and more professors involved, the better. Because I'm just one guy, we're just two guys, and we want more people to be involved if possible. So,
Any more questions? Question? You also have a question.
Did you have to fight with your institution to get a WordPress site that wasn't controlled by them?
Great question. Great question. We did get it approved by them, just like we got approved. Okay, what can I do to salvage? We've got $150 to get this printed. Can I go off campus? Because I'd rather keep it in-house. But we're given permission. So it's all about communication. We communicate with Associate Dean and Dean. Once we got their clearance to that, hey, here's the reasons why we're doing this. We would rather go this route. We would rather have something developed. But here's the situation. How long will it take us to develop this website? Can we, as an institution, create this right now? Because otherwise, we don't have any funding. What are we going to do? So thankfully, they worked with us on that, realizing the situation, and kind of, that bounce back thing, promoted, supported as an institution, even though it's a WordPress, it's an outside link. Could we then transition at some stage? Yeah, we'd definitely be willing to do that. We'd love to do that. But yeah, that was wasn't really a battle. It was just about being honest, not trying to sneak it in there, kind of thing. We just worked with them, being honest about it. They would have said no, we would have had to strategize and find another route. But thankfully, they were willing to work with us on it. So, great question.
Great. You guys are late.
Next.
Oh, you're next one.
And
Thanks for making me feel good.
How'd it go?
It went fantastic, yeah.
yeah,
Could
wonderful.
could barely squeeze everyone in
That's right.
into the space, you know.
Standing room only. Do you have one additional question? I think we probably take one more each.
I just had a comment. I like the student testimonials, and I think it's really important. Students are getting all these disparate voices to provide them with a common voice on campus, and I think that's what this does.
Yeah.
The live events and things like that.
Yeah.
So I appreciate that as well. Be nice to see administrators come to my events.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The associate dean came to our last
Oh
one.
yes, last two.
Last
Yeah,
two,
yeah, last two.
Good.
So yeah, we always invite them. We understand they have busy schedules as well, and so yeah, that's in thinking of ideas. Well, how can we get that? So we've recorded this, and hopefully we can share with them, and maybe get the film students involved in that. And so it's great when people do come, and we always love that audience. But you know, in that way, we have to understand that the administration, the faculty, the staff, the students have lives.
Oh,
You know, have responsibilities, and we're always trying to find ways to incorporate as many of them here in the moment. Because like I said with my one anecdote about the Martin Luther King speech and that student that gave that, you know, you can't really replicate that. I got emotional several times during this because I care about it, and it's hard to get that even through the lens. So it is a great thing, but if they can't, which way can we also?
Oh, can you give these out? Should we give these out?
Surely, yes,
Huge,
absolutely.
yeah, because you were
yes.
here. There's two. There we go.
I understand the monetary value that you have to sell to administrators, but I think it's also important to let them know there's an intrinsic value that you can place.
I think maybe sending those testimonials maybe to you know, any application of funding would be good, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, to show the student.
Aside from the monetary,
Yeah.
there's something, we have those areas on campus too that you can't really put a price tag on, but they're intrinsically important
Yeah,
to
yeah.
student development.
Yeah. Oh, thanks for your.
Yeah, thanks for your questions and thanks for coming. Appreciate
Very
it.
nice.
Oh, there's a couple of copies
Yeah,
here.
please take
Yeah.
a look if you can.
Nice job, guys. Wish I had more time.
Oh no, yeah, there's a couple of copies. Thank you.
Yay. Oh, really? Okay,
So-
well, thank you.